evening, I'm Regina Lay, sitting in for Ces Oreña-Drilon.
And I'm Denise Tang.
The big stories we're following tonight. The Philippine Contractors Accreditation Board, or PCAB, has revoked the licenses of 9 companies controlled by contractors Curly and Sarah Discaya.
The couple and over 30 other personalities tagged in the flood control mess are now also subject to an immigration lookout bulletin order issued just this afternoon by the Justice Department.
And party leaders in the House want to return the Marcos administration's proposed 2026 spending program over mangled entries and even called on members to sit out deliberations until the budget is fixed.
Kung ni-revoke, ano kaya ang basihan? Dapat may due process yan.
All 9 construction firms of contractor Sarah Discaya and her husband Curly have had their licenses revoked by the Philippine Contractors Accreditation Board, or PCAB. These are St. Gerard Construction, Alpha and Omega General Contractor, St. Timothy Construction, Amethyst Horizon Builders, St. Matthew General Contractor, Great Pacific Builders, YPR General Contractor, Waymaker OPC, and Elite General Contractor. In a resolution, the PCAB decided to revoke the license of all the firms after Discaya herself admitted at a Senate hearing that she had 9 construction companies that would sometimes compete for the same projects. The board cited the Government Procurement Act of 2024, which explicitly prohibits conflict of interest and multiple participation in a single bidding process. PCAB's decision is effective September 1st. Without a PCAB-issued license, Discaya's companies cannot operate in the country. And the couple's lawyer, however, questioned the decision over lack of due process.
Wala po kami napag-usapan ni Sir Curly, pero kung ni-revoke, ano kaya ang basihan? Kasi dapat may due process yan. Hindi basta-basta nire-revoke. Si ma'am, sa Alpha at Omega lang siya. Nakapag-divest na siya sa 8. Documented po yan.
Meanwhile, all 12 luxury cars that were the subject of a search warrant from the Bureau of Customs have been recovered. The vehicles were sealed off as part of Customs' ongoing investigation into the documentation and import duties of the vehicles. Among those recovered were a high-end Bentley, Toyota Tundra, and a Rolls-Royce reportedly worth 42 million pesos. The Discaya's lawyer claims all vehicles were locally purchased and that they are even willing to have documents of 16 more of their luxury vehicles reviewed.
Wala pong in-import ang spouses Discaya rito para maging consignee sila or gumamit sila ng consignee. Lahat po locally purchased po. At lahat po nakarehistro yung 12 luxury cars. Hindi po irirehistro yan ng LTO kung meron pong tax due.
Senator Jinggoy Estrada said the Discaya's own 80 vehicles, but only around 63 have records with the Land Transportation Office. The Customs Bureau said their initial findings revealed that the 12 vehicles they sealed off lacked proper documentation with the LTO.
Nakapag naman po ay nilagay na sa MISDIG dun sa aming data doon, magkakaroon ng tentative release yan, papuntang LTO po yung dokumento. Pag na-rehistro na po doon, marahil, kung talagang gagawin po ng ito yung magic, mawawala at mabubura po doon sa data. Kaya marahil, kung totoo po yan po yung maaring kadahilan po niya.
Now, Pasig City Mayor Vico Sotto, in an interview today, said he is even willing to testify against the Discayas if he is invited by the Senate.
We're doing our own parallel investigations. Importante may managot. Hindi pwedeng pagkatapos ng ilang buwan, tatahimik na ng issue, tapos magkakalimutan na tayo. Kailangan makasuhan yung mga dapat kasuhan. So on our end, we're doing our part. We're assisting even national government agencies kung yung kailangan sa amin.
So again, earlier today, Discaya lawyer, Attorney Cornelio Samaniego III, reiterated na confident daw at okay lang daw sa mga Discaya kung magkaroon ng lookout order as well. Not just talking about the cars, ha?
Oo.
Pero
He says they're not gonna run.
they're not gonna run. Wala daw balak magtago. Wala daw balak magbiyahen. He also talked about the 12 cars, katulad nung binanggit natin sa report, that as long as there will be a new search warrant, they are willing to show down the 16 other cars mentioned by Sarah Discaya last Monday.
You know, honestly, I've lost track of what the number is because she said in the House tour that they had 40, and then at the hearing it became 28 with
and then-
other service vehicles for the business. And then Senator Jinggoy said,
80.
actually it's 80, at least 80. And then, but only 63 are registered with the LTO. Nag-respond naman yung attorney ng Discaya saying, the 80 figure includes the ones that they have sold in the past. So bottom line is, it's still in their whole lives they've still had about 80 cars. That's still a lot of cars.
Actually, yung isa pang discussion dyan is, I remember in one interview, I can't recall kung sino nagtatanong, pero according to the Discayas, meron daw naman kasing mga cars that are also registered under the company's name.
Wow.
So parang people are now talking about it na ano ba ang difference kapag under the company name or under their own names. So does that mean na hindi nila talaga pag-aari yon even though they own the
it's
company?
still theirs, and I get
Ayun na
it.
nga.
The business needs vehicles as well, so it's a lot. Pero we also, the garage, right? We also, how many cars were there? And nevertheless, you know, just the sheer number of luxury cars that, for instance, that the BOC, the customs agency has sealed off, right? The Rolls Royce and the Bentley and the Cadillac
We
and
have
the
the-
Maybach
we
and the
released-
Range Rovers.
Yeah, we released the list of that. And according to the Post, this is of course a post also of News 5, Rolls-Royce was reportedly about 42 million pesos. Yung kasunod was a Maybach, 22 million. When I added these cars, yung 12 cars,
140. How much was it?
Naku, iba ata ang math ko. 165 kasi sa akin.
165?
Million.
Oh my gosh.
But ayan, yan yung listahan na
Oh my
pinag-uusapan
goodness.
natin.
165 million pesos, and that's just the cars that they currently have right now. We don't know. That doesn't include the service vehicles. That doesn't include the ones they've sold in the past. Oh my gosh.
And the 16 others
These are staggering.
na nawawala dun sa 28 that Sarah Discaya again talked about when she was being asked by Senator Jinggoy Estrada.
These are such staggering numbers to me.
I mean, 42 million for a single vehicle. Pero ang ano nga yung ano niya doon, may sinabi siya, may anak naman daw kasi siya, 4 din yung anak niya, di ba?
So the joke is that, so you need a car for every day of the week.
Pwede.
A
A different car for each child every day of the week.
Ed on Storycon earlier said, oh, it's parang COTD, car of the day. Parang OOTD.
Bago yun,
PCAB is also revoked the licenses of all 9 construction firms that the Discayas have admitted that they owned or controlled. It's about time, but the PCAB board is, cited the Government Procurement Act of 2024, which explicitly prohibits, for obvious reasons, collusion, multiple participation in a single bidding, and other bidding manipulation tactics. But my question there is, I mean, I find it hard to believe why only now, right? I mean, are you telling me that in all this time you didn't know that these multiple companies, A, belong to the same people, and B, would participate in biddings together? That's kind of difficult to believe because PCAB is the agency that issues, revokes, or suspends licenses. And what I hear from sources is that it's really difficult to get accreditation, right? They require an enormous amount of paperwork and requirements, maraming red tape doon to even get accredited. And of course, there's categories to it, right?
And
You
from
need to be, in order to be, they're also the ones that classify the contractors. Say, let's say you're AAA, then you're allowed to bid for
Certain
for
projects.
example, 600 million above. For example, lang, I don't know what the categories are. I know there's tiers, right? And in order to get to the very top of the listing of the tree, you would need to show paid up capital of this much. You would need documents. You would need, and so on and so forth. So it's a whole lot of requirements that's needed. And what I hear from contractor friends is it's very difficult. So again, it comes back to the question of how did you not know about all of this, right? Seeing as how stringent the requirements are to get accredited by PCAB. And by the way, St. Gerard, for instance, was once already blacklisted. And what we're finding out as well is that yung blacklisting pala is only good for a year.
Exactly.
Right? Which is, I mean, what purpose does that serve? So you sit it out. So what people do is they sit it out for a year, and then after that, they join again. So
And
all the violations, ano na nangyari, right?
pero lalo pa ngayon, you sit out for a year, but then you have somebody, sabi, no, she has 9 companies.
Yeah.
So even if she sits out one,
Exactly. Even if half of the companies are blacklisted, for example, and they have to sit out a year, the other 5, the other 4 can still participate, right? So again, coming back to questions around PCAB, this used to be a little known agency. We didn't know much about how they work, but now it's coming to light. How do you not sanction, how do you let all of these things slip, right? Yun nga, pag na-blacklist yung isa, or the other thing we found out was a lot of these top 15 contractors were given poor or unsatisfactory marks for some of the projects that they did. Again, if you already get a poor or unsatisfactory rating, how is it that you're able to continue renewing your
bidding and getting those
license
projects. Yeah.
as a contractor, right? So now we're looking at the compound in Pasig of the Discayas, which was searched yesterday by the Bureau of Customs so that they were searching for the 12 luxury vehicles. And the reason that's 12 and not all of the 28 was, according to BOC Commissioner Ariel Nepomuceno, yun lang yung binigay ng court for now. Because in order to do a search, they needed to go to the court and ask for a search warrant because that's a residential address, that's a private address, right? And they only had enough evidence to basically identify the 12 luxury cars and not all of 28. So that's a starting point for them.
I recall that yung unang beses na pinuntahan niya, yung compound, they only had 2 cars there. And later on in the afternoon, we saw videos as well na parang biglang may nagpapasukan ng mga kotse. And it was reported, I believe yesterday ba? At the end of the day or this morning na finally kumpleto na nga yung
Because
12.
initially it was just 2.
Initially it was just 2.
Ginagamit pala ito.
Oo, ginamit yung 10 muna.
Okay. So I thought they were just for display, but they use them pala on a daily basis.
Wala yung
I guess.
Yung kumpletong 12 kahapon eh. So people were actually looking for it kasi nga paiba-iba yung numbers, 40 to 28 to 12, and then yesterday they only found 2 in that compound. But again, it was confirmed this afternoon by the Discaya attorney or spokesperson, Attorney Samaniego,
Yeah.
na kumpleto na yung listahan.
But that's just a starting point, again, like we said. So all the other agencies are looking at them as well. BIR is already investigating them, we know that. And also NBI today, according to DOJ Secretary Boying Remulla, he is asking the NBI to also get involved in the investigations.
Also, kailangan din silipin, I believe, kasi it was Sarah Discaya herself who said that they only had 2 dealers, kung hindi ako nagkakamali.
One of them was tagged pa in the case of smuggling from years ago.
Okay. All right, so as part of efforts to cleanse DPWH, Secretary Vince Dizon ordered the temporary suspension of biddings for all locally funded projects in the country. The suspension will last 2 weeks and will, of course, include flood control projects, but also roads and bridges. According to Dizon, the breather will allow them to review all projects and devise measures to prevent ghost and substandard ones. Tomorrow, Thursday, Dizon will kick off his audit by visiting flood control projects in Bulacan.
I'm giving our new team 2 weeks maximum. 2 weeks maximum para maglagay kami ng safeguards dito sa mga prosesong ito. At i-develop natin yan in the next few days. The President does not want any more money of the government, of the DPWH, thrown sa ilog. At papatayan natin yan. Yung mga nabid na, na-award na, Kaya ngayon, babantayan natin. At hindi tayo papayag ng ghost, hindi tayo papayag ng substandard.
Meanwhile, Justice Secretary Boying Remulla has issued an Immigration Lookout Bulletin Order, or ILBO, against 35 people being linked to the flood control mess. The request came from Dizon, although Dizon only named 26 department officials and contractors. His list includes former Bulacan 1st District Engineer Henry Alcantara, Mark Allen Arevalo of Wawaw Builders, Lawrence Lubiano of Center Waste Construction, who was a top campaign donor of Senate President Chiz Escudero, and of course, the Discaya couple, Curly and Sara.
More than making sure that they don't leave the country, the President is serious, I am serious about this. So, hindi to lokohan.
Secretary Remulla also says he will mobilize the NBI to help with the flood control investigations.
Ang tendency ng tao, tumakas talaga. At the earliest opportunity, tatakas yan. We will mobilize the NBI for that. Kanina kinausap ko yung isang NBI agent, pinapunta ko rito. Kasi gusto kong mag-form ang NBI ng isang grupo that will take it, will do this. Yung investigation, yung backup ng DOJ.
And indeed, some people linked to the anomalies may have fled. That's according to Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chair Senator Rodante Marcoleta. He says he has information that 2 of the contractors are now in the U.S., though he wouldn't say who. It's also not clear if these people have fled or are just on scheduled trips.
Hindi ko naman sinabi na nagtago. Kusang tumakas. Hindi. Kasi sa informasyon na inahanap nga kung present sila, may nagsasabi nga sa ibang bansa. Pero may representative sila, ang problema lang, may capacity ba na i-represent naman sila, lalo na sa mga tanong na very crucial. So, maaari namin silang ipa-aresto eventually. Mga 2 na lang naman yata yun.
Meanwhile, Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro hit back at Vice President Sara Duterte today, saying ghost projects were also rampant during the term of her father, Rodrigo Duterte. Senator Bato de la Rosa, who fell silent after Sara Discaya admitted they started bagging flood control projects in 2016, said they will spare no one at the next hearing.
2012 pa yung record niya na meron pa nag-engage sila dyan. Ako nga, klaruhin natin yung next hearing. So what kung 2016, kung gumawa sila ng kalukuhan panahon na yun, dapat ibestigahan. Mga pera ng bayan yan, pera ng bayan yan. Hindi porque during the time of PRRD, i-exempt natin. Noon pa yan, panahon pa na ng Pinoy sila nagkakuha ng mga kontrata sa gobyerno, di ba? Kung meron sila mga ginawang kalukuhan noon, dapat ibestigahan lahat yan.
Another troubling thing that's come up about the contractors, Senator Vico Sotto has said that they've found that 3 to 4 of them are just dummies, meaning they're not really the owners of the construction companies.
Ang alam namin, nangyayari itong dummy na issue, hindi lang limited do sa 15. Marami pang ibang ganun din. Baka lang hindi lang matingkad kasi hindi nabubuko, walang ghost. Baka puro mga racket lang, kurakot lang, baka hindi mga ghost yung ginawa. So hindi nabubulgar. Dito sa top 15 na puro bilyon-bilyon ng na racket sa flood control, meron talaga kaming alam, hindi lang suspecha, meron kaming alam na mga at least 3, 4 doon ay yung mga nakalistang pangalan, hindi rin talagang may-ari. May possibility na iniimbestigahan pa, pero may underground investigation din yan, konting intelligence. Merong mga malalaking contractor din na nasa likod ng iba doon. Ganun. At yung iba naman, isa sa kanila talagang hindi yun. Garantisadong dami.
All right now we're going to take a quick break, but coming up, party leaders at the House of Representatives are pushing for the return of the government's proposed budget over supposed deficiencies. That and more stories when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back. You're watching the Big Story here on One News. President Bongbong Marcos has ordered a sweeping review of the budget of the Department of the Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, under the 2026 National Expenditure Program, or NEP. He instructed Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman and Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon to go over that budget and check it for alleged insertions. This comes after allegations that flood control projects marked complete in the past years were still reflected in the 2026 NEP. Deputy Speaker Ronnie Puno also claimed that projects specifically requested by their districts based on the flood control master plan went missing in the NEP submitted to Congress. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro says if the insertions are proven, Malacanang will submit an erratum and move for the DPWH budget to be slashed. Castro also reacted to Vice President Sara Duterte, saying that the flood control investigations can be done in a day.
Isang araw lang matatapos ng investigasyon? That is absolutely preposterous. Ang Pangulong Marcos Jr., hindi po siya nagsasagawa ng investigasyon ala tokhang way. Nirerespeto ng Pangulo ang due process. Sana po ay ito ay kanyang nasuggest noon sa kanyang ama dahil mismo ang dating Pangulong Duterte ay umamin na maraming ghost projects rampant noon.
Okay, let's try to get more details. We have a guest with us now. We've got Senate Finance Committee Chair, Senator Win Gatchalian. Good evening, Senator. Welcome back to the Big Story.
Good evening, and good evening to our televiewers.
Sorry, Senator, we heard that you're very busy today, but thank you for making time for us tonight. Let's kick off with the budget. We're hearing that there may be irregularities again in the 2026 NEP. What do you know about it?
Well, we identified 6 types of red flags during yesterday's hearing. For the last 2 days, we had the Development Budget Coordinating Council. This is the kickoff of the budget deliberations in the Senate. And we detected that there are 6 types of red flags in the DPWH flood control projects. When I said red flags, projects that we saw that were included in the 2025 budget and then reappeared in the 2026 budget. Another red flag is items which have whole numbers instead of precise numbers. We also saw items that are divided into several phases, several packages, but it can be but it's only one project but divided into several packages. So we say that these are red flags because these are unusual in the budget process. And we continue our investigation and also scrutiny in these items.
Out of the 6 that you've discovered, which one is most worrisome to you?
Actually, all of them. But if I can put a gravity, for me, the most anomalous will be the ones appearing in the previous budgets, meaning these projects have been executed in the past years. But it reappeared, exactly the same name, exactly the same project description in the 2026 budget. So in other words, it's a repeat of the previous project, but once again, we're putting funding on the same project.
Could it not be it's just the second phase or the subsequent phases? Because it does happen when it's a big ticket project that it doesn't necessarily get finished in one budget cycle, right? It gets, extended onto the subsequent budget cycles.
There's such a thing as a multi-year obligation authority. So projects that go beyond 1 year will have to get certifications in the certification from DBM, and that project will be tagged as multi-year obligation project. But when we looked at the DPWH multi-year obligation authority, there are only 5 projects. And all of those are big ticket foreign assisted projects, not the flood control projects. None actually are in the, none of the flood control projects are in the multi-year obligations.
Okay, Senator, yung nakikita nga, no, sabi nila there are double entries, missing entries, duplicate ones. But the question here, I guess, is what are the plans and proposals to clean this up for to not have a repeat of the situation?
Well, I said during one of my statements is we won't hesitate to put a zero budget for flood control if this has been proven a chronic anomaly. Then we won't have second thoughts in making it zero and transfer all the 270 billion pesos to education, particularly building classrooms, buying textbooks, and getting more teacher aides. We only need 55 billion to reach the 4% per GDP for education. This is the global standard for education spending. So we won't hesitate to transfer it to education.
Yung problem with the whole numbers, line items that have whole numbers, why is that problematic? Because the opposite of it is if the amounts are very specific, let's say 77,199,805. That's also suspicious, right? So how do you weigh the suspicion over these two kinds of figures?
Well, it's very clear in the guidelines that you have to have detailed engineering. And when you say detailed engineering, you have to survey, you have to know exactly how much cement do you need, you know exactly how much steel do you need to know how much is the survey cost for that particular project. So you can't have whole numbers when you buy cement. You know, different projects will have different topography, different conditions, and the detailed engineering will give you precise cost per project. So obviously, these projects do not have detailed engineering, in my opinion. So it's suspicious, and that's why it's a red flag, because one of the important requirements to put projects in the NEP is you have to have detailed engineering.
Senator, nung may sinili po, no, and nakita dito 88 items, they're worth 150 million. The funding is a total of 13.2 billion, 373 items with 100 million peso funding worth 37.3 billion. I mean, I could go through all the numbers, pero kung ganun po karami yung pare-parehas na budget, what do you think happened there? Bakit hindi yun nasilip and bakit hindi pa yun flinag as something that is sige po.
So that's a big question mark in our heads during the hearing yesterday, because in our understanding and based on the guidelines is once the agencies submit these projects to DBM, DBM will also have to vet and review all of these projects. They cannot just submit to the Senate spurious projects. They cannot just copy-paste and give it to the Senate. They also have to vet these projects, at least table vetting. If you have double projects, one of the red flags that we saw is there are duplicate projects in the NEP, in the budget proposal, meaning 2 or 3 exactly the same project description, exactly the same amount in the National Expenditure Program. So these are actually common sense. We're not engineers. We just saw it on plain sight. So DBM should also look at this and eliminate those projects that are duplicates in the National Expenditure Program.
So it's not
common sense. It's common sense. If it's repeated, then take it out, because once you allocate amounts on repeated projects, those amounts will be released to the district, and who will be accountable if the projects are one and the same.
Yeah. So you're not saying that DBM has to go out there and check each of these locations, right? Each of these project sites.
Well,
to
not
make
necessarily.
Sure.
In our case,
so
we
at
didn't
least,
go to. In our case, we didn't go to all of those locations. There are about 4,000 projects in the flood control projects. These are just tabletop review and common sense review. You don't need to get a lawyer to do that. It's a common sense review. So if you see project descriptions that are exactly the same, then that's duplicate. No? And also, just to explain, when you allocate 100 million per project, that's the amount that you are requesting Congress to authorize. So that eats up in the total budget authorization.
So it's really going through the line items, going through each line and cross-checking it to see if there's any duplications, if there's any questionable numbers. We're also hearing that there are some items that have no clear details in terms of stationing, in terms of the sites.
Correct.
Parang wala masyadong details.
Correct.
What's the specific worry there? Are these being flagged for potential ghost projects?
Well, how do you check the project? If there's no stationing, there's technical description, and then you are telling Congress to approve that project, how will Congress validate that project? They cannot even pinpoint exactly where that project is. Baka wala ngang river or water bodies in that area, and then yet we're putting flood control project. So you have to have at least the station number so that we can pinpoint. You can go to Google Map and type the coordinates, and it will tell you that there's a river there and it needs a river dike or a river wall. So those are the basics.
I want to take a step back and talk to you about the hearing. So stepping away from the budget a little bit and what your impressions were of the contractors that you guys were grilling. We've spoken to the other lawmakers about this. For instance, the Senator Jinggoy, who thinks that, some of them are lying, not being entirely truthful. What do you think?
Well, definitely, it's also highly suspicious that you have 15 contractors bagging close to about 20% of the projects. And you have, out of that 15, there are about 4 who are sole proprietors. And that, typically in our setting, sole proprietors are businesses that are, if you go into a sole proprietorship, your businesses are normally small ones. For example, grocery or bakery or a small day and night store. These are very small businesses. But we saw one contractor, sole proprietor at that, cornering 7 billion pesos in terms of projects. And even though it's not illegal, it's highly unusual because, imagine if you're a sole proprietor, you have 7 billion worth of projects, the risk is on you. If something happens on that project, even your house can be taken away by government. So it's really unusual practice to have multi-billion projects by sole proprietor corporations. So we need to investigate further how that happened.
And then one thing that they already admitted to, at least Discaya, Sarah Discaya has admitted to, is that sometimes some of their own companies bid against each other, which is a rigged bidding. Essentially, they're manipulating the process.
Yeah, definitely, that's rigged bidding. It's making it appear that there's competition, but essentially there's none. No, so that's the kind of modus that these contractors are operating. And just imagine they have 9 companies, and apparently they're bidding against each other. So and unfortunately, I think this has been going on for a long time. That's why they've cornered. Just this Discaya. The Discaya companies alone bagged close to about 32 billion pesos in contract for the last 2 years. This is only flood control.
Yeah.
We're not talking about roads. We're not talking about irrigation systems. We're not talking about farm-to-market roads. I heard that they also have contracts in those infrastructure projects.
According to Senator Tulfo, diba, bidding-biddingan ang nangyayari. But Senator, I wanted to get your thoughts on this because word on the street is parang nag-uusap-usap din pala tong mga contractors na to na kumbaga sige, ito sa'yo na tong project na to. Kunyari merong magbibid na iba, mas mababa, pero parang sila na mismo yung nagde-decide kumbaga kung kanino mapupunta yung proyekto.
That's another modus. I've been hearing that. In the bidding, parang there's already collusion, and at a larger extent, parang cartel-like practice, meaning there's only a few contractors and they collude with one another and pretend there's bidding going on. So that's another modus that we hear in different bidding procedures.
What exactly would you like to find out at the next hearing? Because the problem as well is that this has so many different angles, so many different layers of issues, right? And sometimes you guys, we watch you and naubusan ng time for each lawmaker. But specifically for you, what do you want to find out?
Well, as the chairman of the Finance Committee, I don't want this to happen again in 2026. That's why we're scouring through the almost 1,200-page national expenditure program, because we found a lot of red flags. We're going through one by one, the projects one by one. This is only flood control. We're not even talking about roads. We're not even talking about multipurpose buildings. We're not even talking about other things. So, but we have, this is our job. No? We have to make sure that the 2026 budget is credible.
The problem with trying to close the loophole, Senator, is of course, we can't excuse the role of Congress here, whether you're talking about the upper chamber or the lower chamber, right? So in the lower house, for instance, the Infrastructure Committee has already passed a resolution asking their members to issue declarations or disclosures if they have any conflicts of interest. What about at the Senate? Do you think that might be something that could happen?
That's a possibility. But I'm sure that the members are very aware about that, and that's a possibility. It's something that the members can take up.
But as far as you're concerned, no one in the Senate has any linkages, ties, relatives that can be connected to this issue?
I cannot speak for the others. I really don't know their business dealings and their family businesses. But as far as I'm concerned, we don't have any. I am not connected to any construction company, any company that deals with government in terms of infrastructure. No one in our family is also involved in the construction business.
Okay. And on that note, we'll end this conversation. Thank you so much for making time for us tonight,
Thank you for that.
Senator Win Gatchalian.
Now, over at the House of Representatives, party leaders are recommending that the 2026 NEP or National Expenditure Program be returned to the Budget Department, citing multiple red flags in the allocations. National Unity Party Deputy Speaker Ronaldo Puno flagged several issues in the proposed budget, including line items funding projects that have already been completed, others that are double booked, and some that simply disappeared. Ghost and substandard flood control projects were also identified. According to Puno, returning the budget would allow the agency to review each line item and ensure funds go to projects that should have been prioritized. House party leaders said there is still time for proper budget deliberations. They even said lawmakers could cancel the scheduled congressional break in October if necessary. No word from House Speaker Martin Romualdez yet regarding the matter.
We do not know how to deal with it. The National Expenditure Program submitted by the DBM falls short of that standard. Too much distrust. Ayaw namin tanggapin itong basurang trabaho, no? Tapos kami na naman ang masisisi.
Okay, joining us now to shed more light on this, we've got Manila 2nd District Representative Rolando Valeriano. Good evening, sir. Welcome to the program. I'm sorry for mangling your name.
Good evening to the two of you ladies. I'm Congressman Roland Valeriano of the 2nd District of Manila.
Thank you for clarifying that. Congressman, what do you know about this idea of sending the NEP back to DBM over issues with the DPWH budget again?
I think it's a good and wise move for the House, since we believe there's a lot of red flags in the budget that we discovered. So for us, they will not point to us the error when it comes to GAA. We conclude that we have to bring back the NEP to DBM. Of course, we are in consultation with the House Speaker Martin Romualdez, and hopefully that he will agree with the move of the party leader, because it's almost consists of all the congressmen now in 20th Congress.
What does that mean? So what you're saying essentially is that with the DPWH budget, hindi galing sa Congress yung problems.
Not only the DPWH budget, but other budget of departments like the DOS. We've seen a lot of red flags in that budget that being done, I think, by the DBM. So we have to bring back the budget to the DBM so that for once and for all, they do it again and bring it back to us. And we are willing to overtime the budget, even if it is in our vacation.
Why?
Our break, yes.
With the issues right now, right, in the headlines with all the flood control issues that's being investigated, when we trace it back, it's also because eventually in the BICAM for the 2025 budget, dun din pinasok yung mga insertions, is what we're being told. Again, what do you know about this?
As a matter of fact, in early meeting by the budget briefing with the Department of Education, I asked the good secretary if he knows that during the last 2025 NEP, the budget of Department of Education is the highest budget. They have the big chunk in all the departments. But when it comes to the GA or to the final budget, the budget of the DPWS much bigger than the DepEd. So what I'm trying to insist is that the insertion was not done in House of Congress because the GAB that we submit is that the budget of the DepEd is much bigger than the DPWS. But when it comes to GA, it's the other way around. So and now it is again the budget of the 2026 budget. It's almost the same. A lot of red flag has been discovered by the Congress. So as not to erase doubt, we have to bring back the budget to the DBM and for them to study again and have it fix it and bring back again to the Congress.
I don't think that's entirely accurate because we also heard from members of the lower chamber themselves, for instance, Congressman Toby Tiangco, who said that nagkaroon din insertions during the BICAM and the small committee meetings at the lower house. So I don't think it's entirely fair to just pin this on DBWH or DBM.
I think that is his allegation, but as far as we are concerned, the House of Congress, we do not know about his allegation.
Okay.
As far as we are concerned, we believe that during the 2025 GAA, the final House of Representatives General Appropriation Bill, there's no insertion with that bill. But according to Congressman Toby Tiangco, that is his allegation.
Were you part of the BICAM or the small committee for last year's budget? For this year's budget?
I'm not a part of the BICAM or the small committee last 2025 budget.
Do you know who were part of the small committee in the BICAM from the lower house?
Well, probably it's the chairman of the Committee on Appropriation in the House of Congress and the chairman of Finance in the Senate. Including, I think, the Senate President, probably.
Let me take a step back and since we're talking about the flood control projects issues, have you found any anomalies within your district?
In my district, especially in Metro Manila, I believe there's no insertion, there's no anomaly, there's no ghost project, and there's no substandard project in Metro Manila. Very hard to put a ghost project in Metro Manila. But I believe in some other areas, yes, and according to the former Secretary of PCAB, I think 15 ghost project has been discovered by his office. But not in Manila. There's no red flag in Metro Manila.
How are you so certain of that, sir? How do you know that there are no anomalies, no ghost projects, no substandard projects?
Well, I'm pretty sure of that. Otherwise, the president can discover it already. And as a matter of fact, he names 20 provinces or 20 red flags projects in nationwide, and none of them is found in Metro Manila.
Okay. Sir, on to another topic lang for me. There are reports circulating around social media right now about Congressman, about Representative Zaldico. Are you aware of these reports, sir? And of course, you are an insider. Would you know where he is at the moment?
I've heard of that, and I've seen it in the social media. And hopefully that someday he'll come out and clear his name if he has any liabilities with the flood control mess.
Come out and clear his name. Where is he right now, sir? Do you know?
That I do not know. I haven't seen him for a long time.
Hindi pa raw nag-attend ng session sa 20th Congress is what we hear.
As far as I know, I don't think he attended already.
You
I
said
haven't seen him for a long time.
how long is long, sir? Can you quantify that?
Since the start of the 20th Congress, I haven't seen him personally.
Okay. You said clear his name. So do we take that to mean you think he's done nothing wrong here?
No, because a lot of accusations are disheartened against him. So I think it's now high time for him to clear his name. It has something to do with that mess, with the flood control mess.
Okay. We will leave the conversation there for now. But thank you so much for making time for us tonight, Manila 2nd District Representative Congressman Rolando Valeriano.
Now, Senator Joel Villanueva strongly denied he has any ties with a disgraced former district engineer Henry Alcantara. Photos have been circulating online of Villanueva, whose home province is Bulacan, and Alcantara at various events, including a ribbon-cutting ceremony. Bulacan topped the list shown by President Marcos of those with the most flood control projects, cornering 668 in the past 3 years. Senator Ping Lacson flagged the province as the epicenter of ghost and substandard projects in his privileged speech. When reporters caught up with him today, Villanueva angrily denied allegations linking him to Alcantara and said he has never had any transactions with the district engineer.
Sir, wala kayong transaction with Alcantara? Wala kayong transaction?
Ang transaction is, what is transaction? And again, this is, unfortunately, this will again be used by fake news peddlers, no? Ano ba yung transaction? District engineer siya. Lahat ng senador, lahat ng sekretary na pumunta sa presidente ng Pilipinas nandun nakakasama siya. So, yun ba is an evidence na sangkot? Bakit si Joel lang yung tinuturo? Bibigyan ko kayong lahat ng picture nilang lahat. Bibigyan ko kayong lahat ng video nilang lahat. So, bakit? Bakit ako?
Speaking on our sister program Storycon today, Senator J.V. Ejercito also said Alcantara admitting he was negligent for being unable to personally inspect all the projects was not an excuse. Ejercito said it went deeper than that.
Hindi lang ito negligence. Talagang sa tingin ko, yung pong mga ghost projects that were undertaken were really meant to ito yung sinasabing pang sports, talagang tinitira po talaga nila, no? And I think the industry knows, yung mga ibang DE, yung ibang contractor na talagang naging notorious na rin itong masyado this particular district in district office in Bulacan.
The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee will continue its hearing on ghost and substandard flood control projects on Monday, September 8th. And this time, the committee has will subpoena Sarah Discaya's husband, Pacifico Curly Discaya II, and other officials of the 1st District Engineering Office of Bulacan. So Curly Discaya is the authorized managing officer of Alpha and Omega General Contractor, and he's expected to shed more light into the 9 construction companies under their family's name, as well as the luxury vehicles. The Blue Ribbon has also issued subpoenas to former Assistant District Engineer Bryce Erickson Hernandez and Construction Division Chief Engineer J.P. Mendoza, who reportedly always accompanied former Bulacan District Engineer Henry Alcantara to the casinos. Also invited to the September 8 hearing are Engineer Juanito Mendoza, Accountant 3 of DPWH Bulacan, as well as Maritoni Melgrito, Authorized Managing Officer of Elite General Contractor, and Darcy Kimmel Respicio, General Manager of Darcy and Anna Builders, which Senator Panfilo Lacson referred to as the other ghost project contractor in Bulacan, aside from Wawaw Builders. Committee Chair Senator Rodante Marcoleta also issued a show cause order for Edgar Acosta, President of Hightone Construction and Development Corporation. That is the firm founded by Christopher Cole, the brother of Congressman Zali Cole. Acosta has not turned up to the hearings at all and is now being asked to explain why he should not be cited in contempt.
And from social media to the streets soon, our big picture tonight is a coalition of several groups that collectively call themselves YAK, or Youth Against Kurakot. YAK is set to launch a nationwide campaign against corruption by way of pushing for bills that protect taxpayers' money. They will also introduce a so-called ghost project hunting field trip that will enable young people to actively monitor government projects and look for red flags. The coalition is composed of the Youth Arms of Akbayan, Kaya Natin, Liberal Party, Kilos Ko, and Pantay, with the Student Council Alliance of the Philippines and Bulaqueño for Good Governance. YAK hopes to sustain the current public outrage over anomalous flood control projects and keep up with left and right investigations on the issue.
That's pretty fun. YAK.
YAK.
Ghost hunting project trips.
Yeah.
Parang,
At pwede mo rin
parang
sabihin
fun.
yon doon sa mga nangyayari ngayon.
Yeah.
YAK.
Oh, it's also ghost month pa naman. Oh
Oo
yeah,
nga.
ghost hunting plus ghost project, ghost flood control project hunting. That would be a fun event. Nakakatawa na nakakainis, right? Speaking of Congressman Zaldi Ko, there was a Rappler article today. I'm sure you saw it since you were talking to Congressman Valeriano about his whereabouts. Evidently, according to Rappler, he has not turned up to any sessions at the House of Representatives since the 20th Congress convened. That was already a month ago. He was excused 7 times, absent without notice 3 times. And then the other times he was officially notified the House about absence. That's all it says. So
Kaya pala sabi ni Congressman Valeriano, for a long time. I haven't seen it for a long time.
For a long time. Okay, and that's the big story this midweek. Thanks for watching.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
See you again tomorrow, 7:30. Have a good night.